Good afternoon and welcome to another tarot session. Today we're going to be doing a review of the spread that I used last week from the book 365 Tarot Spreads by Sasha Graham. And the spread that we did last week was, again, Chalchiuhtlicue's Regeneration Spread. Now, this spread was basically created around the Aztec goddess of Chalchiuhtlicue, who is connected in the Aztec calendar to any day in the calendar that has the number 3 on it. The author explains that she is an Aztec goddess of water, rivers, seas, storms, and tempests, very much an emotional-based and creation-based kind of goddess. This goddess of youthful beauty and ardor was associated, as I said, with any day of the Aztec calendar containing the number 3. They summarized the spread as starting with the question, are you ready for the waters of renewal? Chalchiuhtlicue's aquatic connection ties her to fertility and childbirth, and Aztec midwives cut an infant's umbilical cord and washed the new baby while saying the customary greeting of Chalchiuhtlicue. Flowing waters, evocative and regeneration and renewal inspire this spread. And this was a 7-card spread. For the most part, this was one of the spreads that since I've been doing this, that I really enjoyed and appreciated. I found that for the most part, the questions were kind of in alignment with the way I have questions in my spreads. And so for this one, I think the focus is going to be on how can you then take a spread that you appreciate and you enjoy and tweak it still in order to use the same energy, the same intent for like changing the questions so that you can have that same energy with the intent of what it is that you want to do. And because you're dealing with a water goddess, there's a lot of ways that you could take this spread as they have their intent is, right? Like they're looking at flowing waters, evocative of regeneration and renewal. And you could easily take this and look at how could I create a spread? Like, so you might want an intention on your spread of, looking at using water and the healing properties of water to help identify places in your life that are ready for healing and regeneration. You could also look at it if you're dealing with an artistic block kind of thing, or a community issue, and anywhere that you're looking for regeneration in your health, in your artistic endeavors, in the communities that you're building, that's how you could really kind of tweak these questions and use the spread for that. So this one, the spread that they created was cast in the form of a teardrop. And they said it was the shape of a drop of regenerative water from your favorite spa or swimming spot. Now, those who are drawn to water, you can just imagine a drop of water from anything. I tend to really kind of look at this as maybe a drop of dew in the morning, which is a time of regeneration as all the plants are starting to kind of come back to their own and waking up for the day. It's also, to me, the dew kind of comes in that twilight time, right? Like that liminal time between night and day. And so it's a time for the fairies to come out. It's a time for magical creatures to kind of be out at play because the people aren't really there to interrupt them. And so whatever the imagery is that you want to take, you could definitely add that to it. If you want to add an extra oomph to this spread, you could also bring to the table a bowl of water. And depending on whether you like rivers or if you are drawn more to the oceans, you could have just a bowl of water or a bowl of salt water to kind of bring in that idea. You could also have a mister by you that has some essential oils in there as well. Or you could even look at having some stones that are connected to water. If you're lucky enough to have an image or something to represent Chalchiuhtlicue, you could also invoke her and bring her into this spread as well. So those are some of the things that I like to look at when the spread has very little to really kind of break down or break apart or go over is how then can I augment the energies of this. But we'll get into the questions now, and with the variations in mind, we'll look at how would you change the questions, or how would you rephrase some of the questions to add, say, a healing aspect for your physical health, or a community building aspect, or to regenerate a creative endeavor. And so the first question of this spread was, what needs to be washed away? And you could keep it like that. I like to make them a little bit more specific when I have a very specific intent. And so with this one, if you're looking at healing, for instance, you could say, what is it that needs to be washed clean? Or where could I benefit from some cleansing waters? And how can I wash away negative habits, negative behaviors that may be impacting my health? If you're looking at it for a creative process, you could be asking questions like, what needs to be eroded? You could even use that kind of idea. What needs to be eroded so that the blockage to my creativity can break free? Or for a community, you could look at what past emotions need to be washed away, or past experiences that are kind of clouding my emotions around community. What needs to be, washed away? What needs to be healed and cleansed? And so you could replace washed away with a bunch of different kind of terms, such as cleansed, cleared away, eroded. I really kind of liked when that came up. The next question of this spread was, how do I let it go? And this one is, and again, like I said, the questions and the way this spread progressed, I really did like it. And so we're just looking at how would you make it more specific? And so if your first question is, what needs to be cleansed from my diet, for instance, then you can say, well, how can I support myself in letting this habit go? If it's a habit, so for instance, if you have a habit, which I do, of in the evening when you're winding down for the night, you go downstairs and you might have a little bowl of ice cream. And if you find that ice cream is no longer something, say, that your digestion can tolerate, or if your health deteriorates and say you become diabetic, or you have issues with dairy, then you can say, well, this is a habit that I've had, so how can I you know let it go? But what you're looking at more is like, how can I be okay with this? And we tend to kind of, if there's things we have to change, we tend to see it as a failure within ourselves. And so you're looking at this question of, what's a healthy way that I can support myself as I'm going through the releasing process? And you can do that for the creative one as well. And if you're looking at, say, the community, like we talked about, you could say, how can I best allow myself to move beyond this? And especially you could then look at, when you're doing a progression like this, you could actually even take the information from the previous card, right? So whatever needs to be washed away, whatever came up in that, you could then on the fly alter the question, say, well, how do I let go of, this nighttime binging, right? That's a nice way to really kind of use the spread, but also make it very unique to yourself, because you'll be basing it on the cards that you're pulling at as you go along. The third question that was asked is, why do I grasp and cling tightly to it? And again, this is a good question. I'll probably repeat this for all the questions, but I'm also looking at this one and trying to kind of like incorporate the idea of water, because water, no matter how much you grasp or cling to it, to me, those are more terms that you would have for a physical object, a rope or a rock or a ledge. And so I'm looking at this, and we're looking at how we're letting go and how we're releasing and how we're opening up space. And so it's like, what is it about this that is flowing? Like, how can I understand why this is flowing within me, and what is it about this that I feel I need to hold on to? And with water, right, you're asking kind of like, how can I best hold on to something, although you're trying to let it go? So you're looking at what will help me understand that this needs to flow out, right? Like, what can I do to understand that I am not the container for this anymore, and so that I can let it go? So I think if I was going to reframe this question or redo it, I would switch it from a why do I have to hold on to it? Why am I grasping onto it? Why do I cling so tightly to it? To how do I help myself to understand that this needs to be let go, right? That this is something that I can't hold on to, and looking at it that way. The fourth question is, what fills its place? I believe I mentioned this when I did the original reading about, like when you extinguish a behavior, when you extinguish anything that has taken up space in your story, in your habits, in your perception of yourself, and in your perception of your relationship with other people, you need to have something to come in to replace it, or you're going to easily fall back into it. And so I really do like this question. If you were going to tweak it, I would again say, what can I do to ensure that I have a healthy replacement for this behavior? What can I do to ensure that I have a healthy mindset for my creative endeavor? What can I do to help ensure that whatever community I get into, that I'm creating it from a newer place? And so it's again, it's looking at calling into you, trying to ask the advice and trying to get the advice on what can you do? How can you best create that replacement behavior, so that when you're ready to have this thing washed away, you can then easily say, okay, as I slowly extinguish this, this is what I'm going to do. So when you make the mistakes and you fall back into the old behavior, you can go, oh, that's right. Instead of having ice cream, I said I was going to have the frozen blueberries with yogurt. And so having it that. And so the first thing you might do is, if you're doing something like that, the advice might kind of go to say, well, okay, well, so keep them close together, right? Or different things that you can do. And what you want to do is you want to do things that are very simple and very easy. And that's why you want to ask, like, what is it, first of all, that I need to put in this place, so that when I'm ready to do it, because I know what it is I'm going to put in this place, I can already start to look at ways that I can build it into my routines and my habits. The fifth question is, how can I rejuvenate myself? And this one's really nice. What I would say for this one is, because the spread actually refers to the word regeneration, I would replace, how can I regenerate myself? Because rejuvenation is, they have very similar energies to them. But by bringing regeneration back into the spread, you really are kind of going back to Chalchiuhtlicue and saying, you are a regenerative goddess, and I'm calling on you, and I'm asking you, how can I regenerate myself at this point? And so you can say, like, how can I regenerate myself? How can I regenerate my passion? How can I regenerate my desire to be creative? How can I regenerate my health? How can I regenerate? And whatever it is that you want for the intent of the spread, you can just put that in there. And what you want to do is, like, regeneration, what I like about that is it's the generating, right? So it's, I already have it, but how can I get back into the swing of it? The next question was, what action must I take? Now, if I was to say anything of eliminating a question, this might be the one that I would eliminate, because we kind of dealt with that in the fourth question with what fills its place. So if you're looking at what's going to fill its place, you're automatically going to start to be thinking about what action can I take? One of the things that you could do with this is you could switch those two cards of how can I regenerate myself with what action must I take, so that your spread would go, what fills its place, to what is the best action I can take to see this through. Then go into how can I regenerate myself, so that it makes more sense in that way, because having the card in between is where I kind of go, there's a disconnect here, right? Because you were talking about filling its place and then rejuvenating and then now taking action. So I think that the other thing you could do is you could take the rejuvenate and put it before the two, right? So why am I grasping onto this? So then how do I rejuvenate, and how do I fill its place? So there's a lot, that's another way that you can play around with the spreads, is you can take the cards and you can switch the positions around to where it makes sense in your head as to how you want to kind of flow with this. And then the last one is, what is the result? And so with this one, you're looking at what is the result of making these changes and letting this thing go. So you can keep that one. And again, this is another one that you could eliminate as well, depending on how you feel about it. If you want to keep that nice teardrop shape, you want to keep all 7 of the cards. With this one, the other thing you could do is, looking at it and looking at maybe not so much the result as to how can I honor this process to get a result that allows me to feel that I've moved forward? What is the best way? Oh, another one that you can do dealing with the water is, what is the best way I can create a safe container for myself during this process, right? Because the result that you want, you already kind of know what the result is when you come into it. So asking about what is the result is really just going to inform and enforce what you went to the spread looking for. And so most of the time with the spreads that I create and some of the videos that I've talked about, it's about looking at what can I do now in this moment that's going to really help support me to either understand what's going on or to break through so I can understand what can be. And a couple other things just to kind of summarize up with this spread is, according to the author, these are some extra notes that she had in here for the spread. Chalchiuhtlicue celebration days were celebrated by priests diving into lakes and imitating the movement and croaking of frogs hopping about to bring rain. And so I can just kind of imagine a bunch of Aztec priests jumping into the water and jumping around like a bunch of frogs. Now, the card that is connected to this, so you could actually probably put this card on your table. You might want to take it from a different deck if you have, or just have some kind of image to represent this, is the High Priestess. And so the High Priestess is the first card in the deck depicting water. A river flows behind her veil, and it is said that all waters, the rivers, streams, and waterfalls flowing through the tarot spring from her. So every time you see water on a card in your deck, it is coming from the High Priestess. She springs forth water as a fountain of wisdom and connection. And so I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Chalchiuhtlicue's regenerative spread, and that you come back next week when I will be doing a variation based on this video of that spread. And so until then, I hope you enjoy yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.